Hello and welcome to Unleashed. I'm your host, Will Bachman, and today we're doing another AI case study. I'm very excited to welcome today Karen Friedenberg, who's going to talk about a project that she worked on to design an intelligent automation center of excellence for a Fortune 500 company. Karen, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So, Karen, tell us a little bit about the context of this project before we dive into the details. Just give us a little context.
Sure. Like as you mentioned, Will, this is for a Fortune 500 medical supply company. And the challenge they were facing is that pockets within the organization were first looking to leverage robotics process automation or RPA technology to automate repetitive and manual processes. So that's where it started. And as you know, this technology space is quickly evolving. And so shortly after we got started, it started to expand into more than just RPA, but what as we defined as intelligent automation. You may also know it as hyper automation, as coined by Gartner. And the first step in that really was actually defining what we meant in terms of intelligent automation. And the client was looking to us to develop a center of excellence to coordinate the efforts across the company. So in order to take advantage of this new technology and the benefits of the new technology quickly in a coordinated way. So, like I said before, if it maybe, one of the first steps that we took was actually defining, what is intelligent automation and what did it mean? Because that was a new term to a lot of the people at the client.
All right, great. Well, so tell us, so it sounds like the issue was that in lots of different pockets within the organization, people were trying to learn about robotics, process automation, and then AI and chatbots. And so you had a bunch of people kind of on the side doing their research and using OpenAI or whatever, trying to figure it out. And it sounds like they decided to say, let's have a center of excellence that can serve all these different needs and be a resource. Um, tell us tell us about the project. Kind of walk us through step by step.
Yeah, absolutely. So like just as you were saying, Will, that first step was what is it that we're looking at in those pockets and finding where those pockets were, right? Finding where those pockets were. They had started down a process of RPA with UiPath. Like you said, there was chatbot capability and things that NICE, the customer service software, was looking at. There was things in Salesforce, et cetera. So first was saying, okay, what are we looking at? And we really started out with interviewing those stakeholders. So all the ones that were coming up, both within the business and within IT. So I think you could think about this for the people listening, like similar to setting up other types of center of excellence you might have done, such as a program management office or an operational excellence COE. That's been a bit of my experience in the past as well. And it really follows a lot of the same steps, but just thinking about it in a little bit of a different way. And the first thing was, that it needs to be really business led. That was kind of the first thing that we really need to think about that partnership between the business and IT and letting the business lead, not the technology lead. So just like I think we think about any other types of technology as the enabler, I think a key thing that people can get caught up in the new shiny tool that we have in our tool belt. But rather than that leading our way and the tail wagging the dog, really thinking about where we're going as a business, what are our strategic imperatives, what are we trying to achieve? And of course, that's usually around things like profitability and cost reduction, how to service our customer better, how to engage our employees better, things of that nature. So that was really the first step. And it started to go into developing then what would the structure of that COE look like? How do they interact with the other teams that were kind of similar to them because they have a PMO, they have an operational excellence department already. So how would the intelligent automation center of excellence interact with them? And then what would the roles be within that team and what would the key competencies that we were looking for them to do? So what was their mission, right? Kind of thinking about the mission of that team and what would they be responsible for? And this included things like them being the experts, right? Them not only being the experts in the new technology and staying on top of it as the new technologies are evolving and how it can be used to solve business problems. Again, coordinating the efforts, so kind of leveraging a lot of sort of project management and program management types of capabilities in a coordinated way with the PMO. Sharing of knowledge. So really key because I'm going to talk a little bit more. I can talk about it a little bit now about one of the great things about this new technology is putting it in the hands of your business and in your users. So a lot of these technologies are no code or low code. And it began the concept of what's called a citizen developer. So it's putting it in the hands of the business, putting it in the hands of the users, the ability to solve the problems themselves with these technologies. And so that gave a whole level of challenges, opportunity, but challenges and fear. So we'll talk a little bit about change management also, Will, in a bit. But that was like, oh wow, like IT was starting to fear that now the business can start doing this, and what were the controls around that? So I'll talk about that in a bit. So really, the first piece was what number one, what is the definition, and number two, what does this COE team look like? What was our mission? What were the roles? What were we going to do? And again, it was kind of very similar to like what you think about, when I've created PMOs in the past or these operational excellence types of centers of excellence. So how do we do that while moving quickly, like leveraging learnings, right? These pockets, again, we talked about the pockets. So how do we make that visible through things like, having centers of learning and having those
Mhm.
communities of practice, like to use an agile term, communities of practice where we were sharing the knowledge and what would that look like. So,
So in
that's
terms of
a
what
lot of it.
the Center of Excellence actually like does, um, how did it work? Let's say someone out in a business unit hears about it. We can talk about marketing later, but let's say they hear about, oh,
Hmm.
we now have the Center of Excellence. So would you just call someone up, or would you say, hey, I need some dedicated bandwidth from the Center of Excellence team? Would people have to submit a brief that and then or like a trouble ticket, or how did people request help, and then how did the Center of Excellence start adjudicating and prioritizing those and say, okay, your request is silly, we're not going to help you. Your request, okay, is really a good idea, we're going to put some serious resources against it.
That is a great question. That is a great question. So let's lead us to kind of the next step of what was developed within the team. So exactly what the next step was, we can talk about the marketing in a bit. You're right. Like, how do people know about it? But the mechanisms to take the input of those candidates for automation, prioritize them and move them forward, just like you said, right? So, and I would say, like, what was key on that was exactly some of those knockout criteria, looking at like, is this even something that is an automation candidate? Um, because maybe it's just something, you think it's automation, but you can just do that within your existing systems. Like, you don't really need to come to us. That's just something you can work with your IT team and do within your existing systems. Or should it even be automated? We don't really want to automate a bad process, right? So some of those types of, like, I always call them the knockout criteria. And then as they came in, we used sort of that four-box prioritization matrix, looking at the impact and the effort. And this helped to say, like, okay, yes, it's something that we're going to do. We think that's important. It's going to give value to the business. And then based upon the effort, if it was something that was easier, lower risk, we should talk about risk in a little bit too, lower risk, easier to do. It may be a candidate for that citizen developer I was talking about, and something that we can maybe have oversight over, right? I'm going to talk about governance in a second too, but it would be maybe be in that sense, the COE's role would be more of oversight, sharing of best practices. Here's how you go about doing it. Let me go back to that citizen developer role that I've been mentioning. Okay. So that was a huge, like I said, a culture shift to move to that model. And the idea is that we would we're training those citizen developers, certify them, if you will, not only in how to use the new technology, but also the processes that we're going to be going through, right? One of the fears of IT was that if we just open this up, that any user could just go in and make changes to code. So kind of what is that SDLC, the software development life cycle light, look like? So that we still have that flexibility and still have that speed, but by having the proper controls in place. So
Yeah,
that's
but
number one.
so in
Yep.
terms of like the how practically did people submit a request? Was it like some kind of Jira system, which I don't not familiar with, or was it they just email or call, or was there
Yeah.
a
So
Google
we
form? Or,
utilize similar systems they had for the PMO for input, right? For the input process.
and what would
Um,
that be like? How would they submit a request?
Yeah, so they utilized, I think it was through SharePoint through Microsoft tools.
Okay, so
They
they'd
had a
submit a
portal already. They
request.
had something already developed to be able to do that. Yep.
So the people submit requests, and then just how did the team, was there someone designated on the team to be monitoring that? Or how would they, was it a committee or one person who would sit there as they came in and say yes, no? Or I'm really interested, like the real detailed, granular view of how did they analyze these incoming requests and then adjudicate who gets help.
Yeah, so this is still in the design phase. It hasn't been fully executed yet, but I can tell you what the vision was, Will,
All right.
for it. Yeah, so the idea was that through these criteria that are developed, we would say, okay, where does it fit? Where does it fit? Is it something that is a candidate to the into the center of excellence? If not, communicate back. So did it not fill those knockout criteria? Okay, no, this is something you should just be talking to your IT rep about, or this is something that doesn't really fit. Or yes, then it comes into the body. And I didn't really talk about that much details on the roles, but we had a business lead and an IT lead that would come into that with a business analyst support for that. Okay. To be able to bring it up, say, yes, we think it is, and then meet with them, right? Meet with them to say, yep, we believe this is something. Let's look at what it is. Let's start scoping it out. Is this something that we believe that, again, is easy to do? And let's move forward. Or does this become more of a project? Is this truly more of a project? And that would flow more into the project management type of life cycle.
Hmm. And like, what was the range of the nature of help that this group provides? Or it sounds like it's not yet operational yet. It's not yet
Yeah,
running.
it's not fully operational yet. I can talk about what some of the barriers are to implementation in
Right.
a bit. But the again,
So in terms of like
the
the level of
coordination.
support,
Yep, go ahead.
is it,
Hmm.
there's one version of it where they just get on the phone with you for half an hour and tell you, hey, here's how you use this tool. Good luck. Or, or is there, I mean, so are there like different levels of support? One is
That's
just
right.
that hour conversation versus we will actually take this on as a project that we will support with a business lead, a business analyst, an IT lead, and we'll come in sort of as consultants and help you drive this thing for 3 months. Like, what
That's
are the
right. So
steps between those?
yeah. So not quite as light as the first side, but the first side is yes, this is something we believe to be a a more of a business unit, citizen developer type of opportunity. Do you have somebody? Has that person been trained? And then more of a light, like a once a week type of review, right, with them. Okay, let's see, you're moving along. Are you having any really more of a program manager, kind of program management consultation? What barriers are you coming up with? Do you need some extra help from a technical perspective? Do you need help from a business process perspective? Do you need help from a change management perspective? So more helping them through their blockers, right? To help them move through. And then being that centralized source to say, okay, we did this. This is documented and sharing with the rest of the ecosystem, if you will, right? If you think about it like a community of practice, others that are also doing this across the business that we can share and share those maybe those learnings with and be aware of what else is going on in the company. That's a key piece of this, even being aware to see, oh, you did that over in this area, right? I want to do it in my area too. So that's a key role. All the way exactly to the way you said, Will, this is big. This has a lot of it. This has a lot of risk associated with. This is complex. We're interacting with a lot of different systems. It needs a full-blown project with project management and a full team, and more going through that type of process, if you will.
Hmm. Okay. How big is the Center of Excellence? Is this 3 people? Is it 300?
It's like 5 people.
Okay. All right. Um, and you mentioned communication. So how did you market this internally and get the word out?
Yeah, absolutely. So the there was, I get, like I said, those pockets of the business that were already going down this path in less of a coordinated way. So you already sort of had your change champions, if you will, kind of built into certain places in the business, customer service, sales, a bit in supply chain. So really starting there. And that was what was building up sort of those business, we called them the business optimization managers in each area. That was the linkage back into the business to be able to get this going, right? And we really were taking a crawl, walk, run type of approach where just starting with getting some of those wins, right? Starting with getting those wins, learning how to do it, and then rolling it out more broadly to let people know about it. So starting small and growing.
Tell me about some of the barriers.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the first ones was just really honestly on that the resourcing and the funding for it. Um, so we had to get people to think about it differently because we're like, well, I can't add people or I can't take more on as a job. So what could we replace that was happening elsewhere in the business that could be replaced and really utilized for this? So that was one of the things that's honestly still happening to be able to get this up and really truly up and running. The other barrier or the other fear was what was this AI going to do in terms of people's jobs? So I think organizational change management and change management is huge in these types of efforts, not only in just like you said, in the marketing and getting this up and running and potentially a different way of working, but even thinking about it as we're rolling these opportunities or use cases or projects, whatever you want to call them out, and the fear that employees would have of what's going to happen to my job. And we had to really think about rolling out some more formal, if you will, like common change management methodologies so that everybody was keeping that always in the forefront of their mind to make sure that this was sustainable and that we weren't having some unintended consequences for our people.
Hmm.
So that was another one, a key learning that we really can't underestimate change management.
And what sort of benefits is the company anticipating to get from the Center of Excellence?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, to go out faster to this, because I think these technologies have tremendous opportunity and may allow you to look at it in different ways. So we were looking at a lot of opportunities to reduce a lot of manual tasks, bring things together, bring a couple of things together to service the customer that were happening independently and utilizing some of this technology for that. So definitely the technology has tremendous benefit. But I think that actually very interestingly, the bigger benefit was just the new ways of working. Um, and like I said, it wasn't it was really something that we were sharing that and teaching that of new ways of working between collaboration between the business and IT, these ideas of change management, some of these new ideas and ways of working was an added benefit that can be applied across many different parts of the business, right? Not just an intelligent automation center of excellence that they got the benefit from. And that was a key piece as well.
Fantastic. Karen, thank you so much for sharing this case study with us. For listeners that want to follow up with you and find out more about your practice and your firm, where would you point them online?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am the founder and managing director of Performance Improvement Consulting. So that's piconsult.net. We're also you can follow me, Karen Friedenberg, on LinkedIn, and we have a LinkedIn page. And our company is focused on delivering operational innovation to primarily mid-sized companies, actually, to take you from strategy to execution. So really in terms of strategy articulation, operational improvements, project management, and change management. And would love to connect with anyone who's interested. And I, try to stay in forefront of what's been going on in a lot of these areas, including technology, but also how do you bring together people, process, and technology all together.
Fantastic. And we will include those links in the show notes. Karen, thank you for joining.
Thank you so much. Well, I appreciate it. It was fun.